Assalamualaikum. Fikurin gilab ga episode ka kagon mujo batta kolyanik kashi Yameen Rasheed ko. Yameen kinut
I'm good. Mucho kihne.
agon rahul warapota engeta alugondu.
It's like fihi kandu, govani kandu.
Reach sheva adakkenjeni bayme pune hadikonne ahadakkeni hadikonne no mai ka budi consistent no ne far mashi aharenne ke ane far alugondu kiyo ke mule dimain no
This has actually happened to me. Mavis I hari bonita mavis the maki hisab ko nganekka I really don't know a consistency maintain kolaka because I didn't grow up here. Then for me the levels don't come naturally to me. The by far alugande veskiye by far ma aharen I'm in the same conversation with the same person. For me these are all multiple ways of saying the same thing. Like I'm fahong tankole kama visnadero alugando and it's just inefficient. The 4 syllables just to say I or me or ma. Ma versus alugando, so ma is more efficient. I mean, nimma findem ma mega fahong kiyane dan primarily ma detere kunden
algondu kiyakase
alugando kiyakase
farege boss enno yami kare ren ade fikande. Speaking of languages, inge ahare me hafta kiyam feshi probably the easiestly ane kiyang emme paseyako liefo divehi wahaka well wahaka no it's a book do me no doctor ugelge sihi hadia.
Okay. I haven't read it yet.
Okay, I will send you a link. Okay, found me, but he doesn't use a color tikije hitanaya then complex Arabic side. So for the very first time, the way he checking ishin the we got the color. I'm reading without thinking about reading it and the context I understand because it was so easy to read and I was like, okay, me got the shape. Actually, from the way it's just what a flow actually what I read quite easy and then a few minutes later I was like, okay, page 30 pages read. Right. This is very good.
That's interesting to hear. Okay, around this time. My New Year's resolution is I will actually start reading Divehika. Farita Koranda. But Magotaki Ginafaharo. Miharu Kahala website Vadefawes. I know deep down inside I just want to skim through the article and see what generally happened. I literally have to read every syllable, then construct the word, then I know what that means. The way, so I can't really skim through the way articles.
Process
I mean that's how you get me. So I know I need the discipline to actually do it. I learned Thana from street signs.
Really?
And you get that. Yeah, I mean, I never really did come to Maldives, and there I come passport, Hamavegan Aspanam me hafta at the Etherin Yukurama. Then like it's very simple because there's no combination of letters, there is no. This is very consistent. The Matigarong at the Mafia, but so once you figure that out, then it's just a matter of identifying the consonants. I have no idea the alphabet how to hashavi and then like in the order. I actually literally don't know the alphabet, but I know the individual sounds that they are. So I can read if I sit and have the patience to read an article written in the way. I have read some good articles, but it takes a lot of time and effort that I could instead go to the English site and just skim through the. So, but this year, hopefully. I would like to read this book.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you a link again. But this goes to show though, Rajya ke jo peng hodar ko me, not government of London ki noon kama banya. Unless you're going to the government, then you don't really need the language to understand to be successful.
Yeah, in my industry at least, you don't need Divehin code and the Quran Divehin on our documentation like a chips. Like for Divehim Vahakadakam was දිවෙහිම වහක දක්කන්නේ බොන්නස් අස්ලුමේ mere software install of a PC ready kurasheda. These are all English words in just Divehish grammar. So you're not technically speaking Divehi.
No.
And the ideas that we need to express in my field can't really be translated into Divehi entirely. But at the same time, I have a lot of respect for people who can speak very good Divehi or any language. If you can keep the essence of the language pure and express yourself consistently in one language, I really like listening to those people. I think Yameen Rasheed is one of those people who just want to listen to because his grasp over the language is so good. I wouldn't want to hear somebody like myself speak. It's just annoying as hell. If it's a public figure or comfortable.
But people seem to think that Yameen is going to be Yameen, you're not the other one. He's going to be a huge major figure in the way he politics and all that. Mage carry go political away. Yameen what a fuck up
No, the only thing I can do is write, and I will do that, and I will stick with it. There was this dude who was convinced that I had some MDP connection core team terega commes farugada mihekeda mami, and I am not. I am not even an MDP member. Adi, I do have friends in the MDP, but so does everybody. But no, then commes mihar sarukar badalveje commes magamen nuwata HLB, and I was like, A, I wouldn't accept anything, and B, I'm not that. This is what I do. I write software and I write words. I can do these two things. But I did vote for the MDP consistently throughout, and in the future, unless a really good alternative comes up, I wouldn't. Though I don't really have an option to vote for anybody else right now. But as a writer, I sort of want to remain independent from the powers and the parties and the councils. It's just a choice I make. MDP as a protest. I want to do this, but then I think I'll just stay independent for a while and see what happens.
You could be party as well. I'm not saying you, but anybody could sign to a party and then still remain a neutral voice, can't they?
Can they though? Because misalaka, if you're a party, say an office holder or somebody, you're also representing this many thousand other people. In that hisab, your own opinions are no longer your own opinions. You can party terega within certain forums, yes, but in public, I'm not sure if you can do that. Misaka Sarukar was not Muazzaf, but Sarukar cabinet member. He's not representing himself, he's representing the president. Or Majlis member is not representing himself, he's representing his constituency. So I think Magamaka Anakate Korevunima, you're sort of representing a position. Among your individual conflict that you need to resolve by not airing it, and I don't want to be in that sort of position though. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Me. Never mind. I was going to say something and then it's like
no, I know what you mean. Like, you could be independent and be a dissenting voice within the party.
But by a forum internal dissenting so that you can try and fix the party and all of that. But the minute you do it outside, then you be
undermining the party basically.
Right, yeah. Laundry So
in more advanced democracies, it is normal for political parties, especially parliamentary systems, though an MP can hold a certain view and go public about it, and that's fine. But because each MP can vote as per his or her discretion, misal ka party ko minimane me Wakigote. And I think Hisabong, it is sort of expected for all the party officials to sort of be on board with the party's decision, which is what internal democracy should work like. But yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I don't see myself in any party position, no government official, no MP or whatever.
I don't think personally I could deal with the kind of responsibility that comes with something like that. I like to work on my own time and at my leisure, even if it is 5 6 days straight up for work, or for them, take a whole day procrastinate. It's still my time though.
I find personally that I'm more efficient behind the scenes, as in I try to make sure there's some infrastructure, some, what do you say, because I'm an IT person as well, like, how to gather people together, give the platform, create this mechanism. I think that's where my interests also lie, in providing the solution that enables other people to do what they need to do, than just, I don't know.
Speaking
Not
of
the
which,
most.
did you on Yakobias Island, did you get the time to sort of go through a Harvami me program
I did go
manage
through
it
once, yes.
You haven't had the time, no?
Once, yeah, but now this is the weekend starting tomorrow, so now I have the time.
Right.
Me hafta nimunida. So I'll give it a few hours this weekend. It's on my to-do list, don't worry. I'm not forgetting it. It's
A to-do list
I always go through the top 3 things all the time, so it's definitely in the top 3. So
yeah. To-do list to-do list
I always allocate time the gag, so this weekend I have given to this. In fact, your thing is like the top thing on my phone right now. And then Sunday I have bank stuff, and then a lot of office stuff after that. Yeah.
Alright, so shall we get to... We burned through 12 minutes, and then now we should... Okay.
Hey, me tibala yung itangaran. It's like, when were you talk about, the daily panic? This is what I came here for. It's like false advertising. Yeah, go on.
Right, so which one do you want to go in first? Do we go in order?
Let's go in order.
Yeah, so couple in mysterious death buried. So we did touch on that the other day a little bit. But now, so they're buried and it's gone, and now we'll never know what would happen, what have happened to them.
Mika was hama bonam bernam vani media gero mika tamkola takka fenunida media me story kava kuri goy. Yes, they were buried in the same grave, and they were a nice couple who were peaceful, and then this happened, and then the police said it was a natural death, and then Hisabong is sort of accepting it more or less, primarily, even though there's like fundamentally, statistically, this is like a miracle level, like a statistical improbability, and maybe the family didn't want to do the autopsy, but I feel in a society the police does have a responsibility to make sure there is nothing to rule out any extreme possibilities. It could have been an accident of freak accident of some sort,
like a gas leak or something.
Gas leak or miss, or I don't know, but something that is not obvious maybe. But
me unexplained deaths meaning, but can the family just say, look, we don't want to explore this further, we are okay with the death itself, or does the state have a responsibility, do you think, to push further and explore while the family is saying, look, enough is enough?
Because none of the articles that I have read has mentioned that they were suffering from some illness or
healthy, strong people, though.
Yeah, they're not 70, 80-year-old, even they're 40s, are young people. And he's having us look. Mahram Miswalo Fedania, like, don't just it's unusual enough for a young 40-year-old to die, but for two of them to die at the same time in the same room, and for that to be ruled as normal or as natural causes within hours. Yeah, natural cause VS ever the was it a cardiac arrest? Was it
Okay, yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know,
The keen at
something.
to come we.
I mean, did both of them suffer a cardiac arrest at the same time, or did eh, kummes etchanga bajehda tana explanation akang anna, and I haven't seen that. I have been reading the news and
Me,
stuff.
I do have some comments about this.
Mhm.
ಇವಾಗತ್ತಕ್ಕೆ I saw a lot of people discussing this on social media, and it all comes down to, you know, Gudrati gotong ekam Vedana kama, and that's fine. And
Vedane,
Vedana.
kamako. It established kora shedame burnane through science or through an autopsy.
Then erong e ba do conflict pero wago Gudrati gotong ba kami comment science ng autopsy akong bala argument an namme san an do hama. Why should they? Why should when God has taken the life of someone, why should you use science to explore something and find answers? I've seen this people talk mi mero mundo. So
No, but honestly, I find the romanticization of it consistently across several media stations to be kind of disturbing. I'm not saying these were evil people, that is not the argument. These were nice people, yes, but this is also highly
yeah,
improbable
of course.
a thing, so you need to sort of rule out that this could entirely have been natural. This is possible, yes, it is not impossible, it is just highly improbable. එහෙන් වීම එබජෙහෙ ඉතුර ෆෝකස් කොග්ගෙන් එහෙන් වී තීවෙ ජවාබ හෝදම් එක නොකම් එක cases has been buried, so was I was upset with the media mostly. The Fulhong I don't really have much expectations of. Media,
Even though they are
it's
the best.
disappointing. The best in the region, though.
Yeah, best in the region, trademark.
Yeah. So, and I think I ended that story with we will never find out what happened to Hisabak, and that's all we can expect. Rajega.
Me, even though this is not an abduction or clear case of not an abduction or anything, it's just another unexplained death on the list of unexplained deaths. Just keeps piling up and
Unsatisfactorily explained. That makes sense. But it seems the family did not want it, so it doesn't look like anybody else can do anything at this stage.
Me the family no state we will save some money on the autopsy. You never know. These guys.
The police statement exactly was the family did not want an autopsy, and the police have chosen not to do them based on that, and not based on what we know so far, and they haven't said what they know so far. So ideally, I think the media should have asked, was it?
What do they know so far?
Yeah, and I really felt disappointed by the media on this one thing. So, Demiyate Adalat Party is going to boycott the local council elections.
Is that a good thing?
I feel it is a good thing.
I feel it's a good thing because why participate in a fast and validate a lie. We need the process to go on, and we need the people to be engaged. We need to start building confidence in the process, and in that engagement, the political thinking process in the mind would be more attuned to what's happening around you, and then maybe that would help people to change. But saying, look, with the system doesn't work, we know the system doesn't work, but if we engage with the system, then the system go on the flaws the fix. But but to leave the system as saying completely, this is a farce and all that, means that we are just stepping away from democracy and then turning into something where people can be pent up anger would boil up and then may become something else that's going to be bad. I think we should engage in politics, remain vigilant, talk about the bad things that's happening. Still, when an election versus use that opportunity in the campaign to talk about the problems so that people are engaged and active in politics. And this is like, Bernie Sanders menge efforts even when you're the underdog, even when you know it is rigged, you have an opportunity to spread the message and participate in the process.
In Bernie Sanders' case, for instance, the system was rigged against him within the party. Than at a very fundamental level, that the entire your actual election, the candidates have been disbarred, and if you look at, I have actually listed some of the court of election postponed Kurani indefinitely, and on what grounds? Because PPM tereka faction which is not a thing that happens in democracies. You don't go to the classroom and say I didn't study for the exam and therefore the whole exam has been rescheduled for everyone. No, if you didn't prepare, then you flunk. That's how the system is supposed to work. Parliament of Majlis has amended the laws to ban people from running for positions, party primary, if they lose the primary.
Well, that's not acceptable, because then they are denied the right to be an independent, which they should have the right to be.
Mihar gawad gonna gotam party primary ke korumatla fa nuhovijiyamon ehem party candidate gotam bes korumatnu leve independent gotam bes korumatnu leve. That is fundamentally undemocratic. Then Elections Commission has also decided to basically cancel the candidacies of
quite a large number of people.
Yeah. For no real reason. This whole system has been sort of hijacked, it looks like, to an outside observer. Then about disengaged, to keep people engaged. That's a good argument. The way, when I say boycott the election, I don't really mean necessarily to be, disengaged or show lack of concern, or, just to show apathy that the whole thing doesn't work, I'm not going to participate in it. This is something I have actually mentioned. You could actually keep people engaged because there was a lot of energy on the ground, and you don't want that to be, at home. Elections, you can have sort of a festival for Democrats. It's a protest, but it's not, it is engaging, it is informative, educational, whatever, but system without actually going to have to cast the ballot for something which is clearly rigged. I'm not sure if that is entirely achievable or proven, but I would rather people, yes, it is important to keep them engaged, but also not validate something which is inherently flawed, and then you need to be responsible for hisab. I don't know if I agree with that.
But if Vishnu nikam banyawag so Intiab Gabaveri for Intiab Gilduniya, then they went on and did some ridiculous things that we would regret, and then Nurong Huttan Efatumesrovigan Halakwa or Ghost Kankamvir. But think about it this way though. A campaign for run kuri ekala situation occurring in atuvedanakan ingigen and the prevent kurumuge mivaruge zarrege hope is etto balam vegene, and the minute you didn't do anything, it might as well ekala mi goes come one shame already here on a platter, take this.
They have stera give some hendo maybe because they have stera when harvest the air emihuntibi, and they didn't really want an election. MDP in the බේනුම් වේ ඉන්තිහාබ් බාබ් ප්‍රෙෂර් කරමන්දියේ එතන ඉන්තිහාබ් MDP එක වෙස් නම් ඒවගත බොයිකොට් කරවේ එකක් MDP එහා ප්‍රෙෂර් කොග්ගම් එච්ච බේවීම then if they back out then it doesn't that looks like a unconfident move but ege but nika Supreme Court of Follow intervene kuri hisabang I feel like they should have boycotted then that wouldn't have validated the government that came in next and look where we are today because of that that's what I've said like yes go for a fair elections that is conforms to the fundamental principles of an election where people can run freely and where they can vote freely on schedule as per the law this violates all of them involve courts and the parliament and the elections commission are all compromised I don't know what we are doing. I don't know if this can be called an election.
I mean I get the argument and I understand the argument. It has valid things. Just handing something over on a platter and saying, look,
it's not handing something over on a platter. Like participating in this would probably be handing it over on a platter.
Explain
because me can participate. Kurima wagoteke etebave me democratic intihabaka era megen kurimategen hove miha eke democratic intihabakam hoyi fa hori miha MDP awad ko fanwata MU awa United Opposition SMU wa ko ete balikolla hada ehem weva ehisaban then you can't then go back and say okay that just sounds like you're a sole loser ekamaka mehere kantatta rangal koggenno ni mintiha bunubevede masha aslo emarangolu gotake but MDP or MUO doesn't really even have that sort of skills to prevent an election from taking place.
No, they don't.
So, yeah.
Like you said, they don't have the skills to prevent this election from happening and then force better regulations onto it and then rangalakurashi. So once this election is gone down the drain and the government pretends that this was done right, we've just been set behind me election cycle local council. Yeah, so we are set behind 5 years into any potential progress. And what we sit back and re-strategize again kinato hasar one thing. By then there would never be a fast election.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the direction we're going in anyway. So yeah, I mean I don't know the answer to this, but I feel there is no attractive answer either.
This is a complex thing. I mean I mean your arguments are fully valid. It doesn't solve the problem of political engagement change the system tere holma system ang tiram kogya maseke kuram rawang maseke kurma none of that is being addressed and we are now boda haka defale mesti be my back we harme boycott kurima they would just proceed with it like it was okay, rubber stamp the damn thing and then conclude it with there's just no other way it's going to go. To me that feels like right, we don't agree with how everything's done because rightfully so.
But then I remember last week we spoke about organizing at the grassroots. That is something I would like if this can be used as an excuse to do that at the grassroots level organize kogya me honta neremveda me indiha bavareva even if you don't win or whatever, at least you have built the network, and if you have gotten people at that level to speak and engage with their community, if that positivity can be achieved, then yes. But then maybe because I'm in Mali and I'm isolated from things, but I haven't seen a grassroots effort of best hagigatuga.
Ever a grassroots effort like asla punete and nobody is trying to achieve something like that. I mean, there are NGOs who would like to do more. I'm in the process of planning a conversation with an NGO, and I won't mention the name. I'll just when I'm, you know, but and these guys, their intention and everything is right, and but what I'm trying to say is this is definitely not the first guys who I've met who has their heart and minds in the right place, who wants to do right. Again, this comes down to, they wouldn't have the funding, they wouldn't have the institutional support, and they'd be running behind donors and things like that, and it's over in one. And there would be just another tragedy of, good intention to people unable to do anything. So
we'll find out. Adalat was running for around 60 something seats, and now they're not. And I don't know what this means for the MUO, because I think Adalat Party is a part of the MUO. And MUO and Kurimatilachag Adalat Party boycott Kurima. Hisabong, is it MUO or is it I don't know, are they going to find replacement candidates from some other parties? And this kind of screws with their plans, I would say.
I mean, it definitely made a project the religious conservatives were on board. Check and the religious conservatives aren't necessarily on board. So do they have a coalition of the willing in that is functional, or is that collapsed? Because for the Mali way this Jivadini, then and a Velazini at the below of we, Anni Badnam Vampishi and Kankamvi. And now, other parties saying, look, we will boycott this election, we will not participate. What's going on?
It doesn't look good, yes. My only hope is, even if it doesn't look good from the outside, I hope on some level there is a strategic mechanism, something going on in the background which involves the people, not political deal making with Yameen. Something that I hope there is some engagement with the communities going on under the surface. And I don't know for sure. I'm not an MDP insider, this proves it.
Then I'm not fully convinced in elections boycott idea, but
I need to see some evidence that mege boycott nukuri mafayada kuri kamoge, because there has there Supreme Court and police interference ge fahum vis MDP boycott nukurati international community except Korea Sarkar, because I was in touch with the diplomatic community as a writer. I was also consulted on certain things, and it was clear they were very angry, all of them, because Emihunga's observer Migenani Hama Emihunga's taxpayer funds spend it is not free, they're not this is a cost to them. Periodically at reschedule ko cancel ko mikantat kuri Emihunga se Bharat Bodo mikantat above. So they had a red line there, like they were ready to impose sanctions. Some Huriham and TB Egala kang Arafa. Tiba hamanekas me nami ko they nag-isabi ko sa Yamin but like there was no celebration, not even in the PPM. I remember this nasandura kanyang party office. There was one lady in a black burqa stand sitting outside and celebrating. There was no celebration of this victory because it was not a victory, such a hollow thing. And people were pissed off in the community, international community. They would not have accepted an election which MDP had boycotted at that stage. And I feel in hindsight, they should have. And our present situation is evidence of that.
Right. So, but then, do you think Mihar Adalat ke boycott kurunga meaning ke
Mihar bisa bang apna jehuni hek te boycott no kori mata the boycott no kofia denne ke da mege tingar pahumani ki hinek kabe. That is my point. We have no idea what lies ahead.
That's a pretty solid argument for boycotting itself right there.
Yeah.
But then,
Well, it's
like you said the other day also, nothing short of revolution can now fix this.
well, we need a revolutionary change to fix the fundamentals. Mihar, this is something that can be won. Misalaka, MUI say they win 95% of the seats. VS Aslam here the best bar no libeta. Ekkala Muizada Kahuriha Kamakurana because he is the housing minister. Ahama Sarukara Minimani Mihisa with the Hudia Kamakurane housing ministry Nanuata gender ministry Nahisawang and Imune the Badala Feti, no matter what the law says, in
Mm.
practice all the power is centralized in Male. Ahem, this even if they win, this is a purely symbolic win. It is not going to do much, and I don't foresee them winning either. Because of the lack of grassroots mechanisms. Let's see. I don't know. Aslu hagigat
But
ka.
then
It's just
could
very frustrating.
the lack of grassroots mechanism on the ground, lack of activism, may campaign the weak, so MDP is definitely falling behind expectations.
Nah, Mihar, I mean, 2016, the whole year, probably MDP has never been this weak.
Hmm.
2015 was May Day. I think that was the peak of their popular mass support on the
Mm-hmm.
streets.
And then it was been downhill from there, no?
Then the whole Gasim thing happened and so on and so on, and then it just it is not. I do not envy MDP leadership because what they face is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible pressures and challenges, and they're not getting their party funds. And what about roadblocks to achieving this? I'm not saying it is easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy for you and I to sit on a call and talk about what the MDP
Mm-hmm.
should do, but I'm not suggesting that this is easy or I'm not even suggesting that I have the answer to this, but as an outside sort of observer looking at a system from outside, it is very clear certain things are missing from the picture, and I have no idea how to put it back in, but I just know that it should be there though.
But
So
do you think MDP is unaware that these things are
no,
missing
I
and
feel like MDP needs to go back to the times when it started against Gayyum back in the day, because that time they had nothing and they did go to the grassroots and they did do this. This is something they have done before,
sure,
and I feel
but
they can do it again.
mind you, inge miharo iwak mihendeki America kana obrando Republicans or Democrats epunar ane meun surprise one slavery natali Republicans epunema. It's a party of Abraham Lincoln. So when we say look MDP did this and that me kuredu and we are looking at the people now at the helm of MDP, and it's the people that kurige grassroots ka active on MDP fight kuri me with the party ke leadership by position MPs and that. So MDP is not the same MDP that we
Yeah,
have
and
to, we
I
have to accept
sort of
those facts.
feel we need to go not to the I'm not talking about individuals or individual air work or strategy में हर work was no fun because Gayum wasn't prepared for it, and
Hmm.
Yamin is the because the defense system here on a build with. But I'm saying what really worked for MDP was it was a grassroots movement. It didn't start from somebody sitting up and saying, okay, you do this, you do this. It started off as a mass resentment, and somebody rode that wave and came to power. And I think that mass resentment is still there, the disillusionment is still there. People just need to be inspired by something. Somebody to give them hope and a roadmap and a strategy. This is how we're going to do this, and do that.
Me speaking of
So
which,
easy.
I mean, me with that and distraction to the topic come up with
Mhm.
me. Get the me no I, I think that's a little technical which I'll hold on to saying that
Is this the blockchain thing?
No, no. Okay,
Okay.
adi vaguttaki. I want to talk about something, but I haven't really formulated in anything. So let me think on that for a little bit. Mir, what we've fallen into a trap where I've blurted out few things that I shouldn't in previous conversations,
Okay.
and that's ruined me. Fahata rawa by stories. So no, I'm not going to fall in that trap again.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Fine, okay, fine. ఇంకా కొరియేద్దామా?
Right. So, yes, Wahid's biography, Maldives Independent doing.
So Maldives independent
Did you read it?
journalist. Well, I read the article. I have the book, and I I can't get myself to care about this man. I'm very happy when he disappears from the news for a while. Then suddenly I remember that he exists, and then that ruins my hour for a while, because what he did to this country is quite unforgivable, and I also find that he is a bit full of himself. So when somebody talks about his biography and the things that are in there, it's actually quite what do you say? It sort of reconfirms my image of him as being this conceited, self-centered person, because there's things in there about how Gayyam basically tortured his mother and gang him gang and he doesn't call Gayyam out on that because now his alliances have shifted so much, and again, this is your own mother, you don't
That is
work back from
Wahid had so much problem. His younger brother, the Naushad Wahid. Naushad didn't like what Wahid did, though he had a fair bit of criticism, and then warning and so Wahid isn't handling how his parents were treated and how he is treated very well, though, and he's gone back to Qayyum in a way that can only be seen as a betrayal to what happened to him and his family.
No, I didn't have the greatest regard for Wahid even when he was in Nasheed's government, because I could sort of see the difference between Nasheed, and he was the president at the time. And was hinga for the but this guy, I sort of felt this sort of entitlement. I was TVM's first presenter and first in so many things, and I found it very funny that this article actually mentions that he claims he was the first world president to stop at a Palestinian roadside cafe to eat a cheese pastry. Like, what even is this thing? That why is this mentioned?
World's first minganu tang hedida ne dokta para quest kita magichiki. Yeah.
So I love the review for this, pointing out this person's desperate need to be recognized for irrelevant crap, and I feel that this was exactly his sense of entitlement, that why am I not the president, I'm so much better than all of you, that led to him taking part in this coup. And this is something I cannot forgive him for, but even disregarding all of that, as a person, I feel it's a very shitty thing to do or say, or to toot your own horn that much stuff. I'm the first world leader to do that. I remember him tweeting once a picture me at I think the Singapore University notice board of me in a phone or photo, and Nagahamilani, there was this meritorious alumni or something. I don't remember what it was, but there was this picture of LKY and him. The list of him in Denang, LKY Yameen, and the Mina says abang LKY Gefemor Gamiha. The Mina Fenning a Mina phone Naga between Koranida, like I am this. Which I thought so class, like you have other people talk about you. You shouldn't. This is just cringe-inducing when somebody who is a vice president or president does this.
The least you could have done was taken the picture and sent it to someone and said, "Come here, check out it."
That is PR and brand management. Though it's like
Mm.
you're just ruining your own things. Like Amilla Wahaka, he's so caught up and enthralled by himself that he's like constantly impressed, and he doesn't see why other people are not. And that I think defines him as a person. And obviously, Faharako, I think Kailash somebody got the Nobel Prize from UNICEF.
Mm.
I and this guy tweets a congratulatory note,
Mm.
except he doesn't tag the guy who won the award. What he does instead is he just names the guy and says, "Together we have achieved such and such." It's like, guys, credit me about it. And like,
Mm.
maybe you did do something brilliant over at UNICEF, but this is somebody else's moment to shine. Don't,
Yeah, that
put
is
yourself into this.
pretty
That's-
horrible, though.
and I thought that was just crude. It's like even if you were the primary person who did it, which I don't think he was, stop stepping into somebody else's limelight. That sort of reeks of desperation and insecurity and all these other factors that makes you less appealing as a person, and you're not the most appealing person to begin with. So
No, he's not
Uh,
very charismatic. He's the most dull, boring man you'll ever meet.
and that entitlement on top of that is just incredibly nauseating. I'm not sure if
Mind you though, that's with the early 90s Gambian politics of Wangero, that somehow he was supposed to be the savior, and then when he feel he then found the erus to the somehow that this is Mina Kuranje Kamekama Amelia Gabu Kogging Edimalata. Maybe that's where that entitlement started developing. But somehow
maybe. I know that his son Jeffrey's website has an entire section about Philly Wahid, the defense of his father against this accusation, and that was so defensive, and the fact that it was there was sort of, yeah, you totally did not leave the country for your own safety. It was for the concern. I mean, sure, like Qayyum days were bad, but he's hardly the only person to have suffered under Qayyum, and he is not as extraordinary as he thinks he is. And even if he were, don't be the person to tell everybody about it. Let somebody else, compliment you once in a while.
he should just hire a PR firm to, handle it, because he seems
He did when he was president. It didn't really work for him.
But post presidency PR, just people.
Yeah,
Maybe this book is a PR effort.
And then this is what happens in the book as well. He doesn't have the guts to call out Qayyum or whoever wronged him in the past. Instead, he's just like trying to show him as the victim and him as the leader who fixed everything, or if I were not there, things would have been so much worse. And that seems to be the portrayal of the person. It's just not how I see it.
But then, do you think that's how he really saw it?
I don't know. I feel like he's.
I mean, it's entirely possible that he actually believed.
I do believe Nasheed Berikamaga, he was quite sidelined. Because of course he was, but would he have done the?
But mind you, the vice president shouldn't have any power, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, he's there, and then he actually made this claim when he was president that his name was on the ballot paper, and Nasheed Hovani was minaga nangego otimeda, and that is such a weird thing to say.
Maybe he wanted to make the vice presidency great
Nasheed
again.
could have run with an old sock and he would have still won. It didn't matter who was on the bill with him. Because, and I'm not saying this was because Nasheed was popular, I'm saying because the anti-Qayyum sentiment was so high at that time.
Yes, definitely.
Nasheed became popular over time after he became president, but for him to claim that, and then Burnida Zamanek kami nuwadiha pasantrayatum was mina fahatugaytibi. And then he contests the election, and then what does he get? I don't think any standing president in this world, in any democratic country, has contested an election and gotten 5% of the vote. And I know this might be a bit mean, but I tend to use the 5% anywhere I can anytime I mention him. So Wahid story a daily panic ang RF on na sabi ko 5% just because I want to needle him on that. But yeah. I mean that says a lot about him as a person for me. That statistic of 5%. It's like you may have all of the TV covering for you 24/7. You might do all your PR. At the end of the day, you're a nobody with 5% of the vote.
He was trying to make 5% vice presidency great again.
And in this case, I think I said I couldn't get through 5% of the book because it's that lame. Yeah. We spent way too much time on Wahid. I have problems with this.
Wahid worth knowing time because we
need to move on. Let's move on to something else.
Wahid book launch of us we gave too much time, and now the review that comes to it's like moving on.
No, skip it. Let's go to the text.
DDoS attacks.
Yeah. So. This was the reason why our last recording also got delayed. Dirag and Rida both came under DDoS. We actually spoke about this last week. Because we did the recording a bit late. But yeah, so Mihar diddo have a come for me the Sloven was okay. So I hope this has gone away for good because it really takes a toll on productivity.
Dirag discount was then.
Bonafite hai.
I can't message check out the Twitter.
Dirag account unta.
Oh, I don't.
Because people have been requesting for it, but I'm not sure if it's a thing.
No, I don't exactly remember. I was looking through what quickly comments tweeting how them again. Somebody was saying, and I was like, okay, Dirag I wasn't paying attention. But I did see that there was some talk. There was some tweet.
But this does highlight for generally Balam Mihaname. We are actually moving away from being able to do anything on your local computer. Hodi had a cloud of so you can't check your email, you can't check, you can do any work. So even where I work, I've sort of been gradually getting people off of Amila desktop and it's just open a browser, log in and start, doing your accounting or
so much
anything
easier,
else that you do. Easier for the IT person, also easier for the user because he just needs a login. He can use it from his phone, from his home, wherever.
It's always going to be the latest version of the software.
Yeah, kada nu jai install kong update ko me iskame kurak the backup nagag. So everything happens on a server side. And then the internet disappears. So I have a hard time justifying. I was like, so I moved all the accounting software to the cloud and now you can't access it. But yeah, I think we really need to have systems in place to mitigate this going forward.
And I may sound like completely a dumbass me current to the backup generator but internet the backup internet bet and everything.
Well, it's not. No.
Because they connect to what then the internet itself exists and
the internet is not a network. Like it's not a single network. It's a network of networks.
Of networks, yeah.
So it's like if there are 200 people trying to get in through your front door, can you have a side door that you can get out of? They could use them on the side door. There's nothing stopping them from trying to do that. So it's impractical in the sense that any number of doors that the only solution is to have another house somewhere else. And if you have a website hosted in one place that is under attack, yeah, you can have another website hosted somewhere else, and that is a thing that is done cloud based. It's like AWS, Amazon Web Services ke sundana region takabaha. So mi region ekko current goskeng o halakuvias people will just automatically get rerouted to the thing that isn't down. But in this case, we can only speak to the rest of the world through these two cables.
Yeah.
If that thing is like taken up, blocked, or like a one system the down column I can't really do much. And it's a complex challenge, but and there are people working on it. And Dirag also does have systems in place to mitigate it, but sometimes you need to think about the scale of it because Dirag is a small telecom, and it can only invest a certain amount. I think they can invest a little more, but let's see.
Work with partners, so okay, the money kit could telecom company, but there's opportunities to work with partners to solve these problems that you can't overcome on your own, though.
No, as a tech person, I am familiar with how the internet came into existence, into what it is today. And the internet was never designed to be the internet where everybody's toaster is talking to each other. It was on campus inside university terega it's not meant for the whole world to use. So it wasn't inherently designed to be super secure. This was never foreseen as a use case for the network that became the internet. So a lot of the things inside a protocol level are based on trust. That is why you have man-in-the-middle attack who's capturing your data, and so many things are only possible because it was never designed for what it is today. The Mihar Mufadda Dengechehita are built on top of this inherently insecure thing, which because of that there are a lot of fundamental things that need to change. So the whole language of the internet needs to change for things to actually change, and that will happen eventually.
Massive task.
So all the routers, every switch in the world has to change for the internet to change, and that is just a huge challenge, unimaginably big. I mean, but now there are just ways to work around it. HTTPS data itself is unreadable, and so on. But it's very, very challenging. I don't. I will not put down any engineer at Dirago or anybody for failing to prevent this, though it is not easy.
No, of course. No, it's not about putting someone down, though. But
no, I mean, I'm aware of the scale of the problem. It's not something they could have. Okay, if you had done this instead of that, then this would never have been a problem. There are ways to look at it.
So it was definitely an unavoidable thing. That's you're pretty certain.
No, you always take reasonable safeguards. Though I mean, there are obviously, like, if you spend another few million, you would have had a much more robust system. But they are a business at the end of the day. They're also working for profit, so they will invest what they feel is reasonable given their current outlook. Then then they will have to invest again though to prevent that a second time. So I think that's okay. I think that's acceptable. But it's not acceptable is charging a full amount for the bill when this happens.
Right. I mean, hopefully there will be some, if there's enough pressure on social media and things like that. Social media has enabled a lot of change in the past. Diragu might be made to convince that discounted the engineer.
Yeah, I mean, this is also good PR if it's like this wasn't our fault, but since you didn't get to use the internet for 4 days, here's some compensation or some.
The value reward of that PR may be even completely lost on them.
Why?
Because
it's not like we screwed up, but
yeah, they hinga monopoly
duopoly.
Duopoly, yeah.
Yeah, but on the bright side, the internet is back, and we are able to use it the last couple of days.
But anyway, this call has been very good though. It hasn't frozen as much as the last couple of times.
Last time it was really bad, yeah.
Well, let's hope it stays that way. For the fun in a way. Internet.
Okay. So
trial commences. Murder trial. Those trial commences in case of Maldivian man murdered in Sri Lanka. So me, Rajay, you got me trial me ngani aneka ken me ana hit order kuri kama puna mi hagado.
Mm.
When was this arrest made? I was not familiar with this Wahaka until I read it off you.
Really? Okay.
No,
Um,
I was familiar with Rabarega murder and all of that.
okay.
I was unfamiliar, just completely.
Yeah, so I also read the news and aslo news were in a kavesnege mi misal ka Lanka ang hire kuri mi hamihar hori Lanka kamera jaga kamenta. So this hasn't been made public by the police. Even I didn't know this person was in custody. I assumed he would be, but I didn't know if he was in the country or if he was abroad or whatever. So Rabare Marala Lar as a Dinkama Bonamiha get proceedings have started at the criminal court, and that is all the information the news also had. The specifics of the charges, or none of the other things were there. His name was there, but I didn't include it because it wasn't relevant at this time.
Weird though, it's weird that Mikes they've recognized though that there is some higher up me hako enable ko clarity hada kan coffee ekam afrashim masala no eheng case
No, there's a difference.
recognize no
Mikes ka Lanka gada ena marale. Ehme Malanka ga marale Malanka folohon tahuge koggen de hafta terega. Hodi echhetam me marale miha me as in the murderer. Kakutoa, like the vehicle he was in, some sort of, I think it was a white van or something. The messages that he exchanged with the guy who financed it, the transactions that were made, how much money he was promised, and why he did it. The motive was apparently Rabare was accused of murdering the guy's brother or some relative. So Mihuriha Chetahoge and they made it public, and they announced that
as
we found the
good
guy.
Police force would do.
This is what an actual police force would do, and what they did. They can only try to take credit by saying this was a joint operation, but we know that this was Sri Lankan police all the way through. And this was in a much larger country with no eyewitnesses, nothing. Then Gabalama, best police force in the region, get track record. It took them 29 hours to get to Rilwan's apartment. We are following Karagos me, Masala Hoshahalane, as in like we are registering a complaint saying that he has been missing for the past 4 days. And it takes them 29 hours to come to the apartment. And when they come with a sandwich in hand. They have a careless. This wasn't a big deal for them. It took them another 11 minimum of in case they find some clues there. And this was the first disappearance of a journalist in the country. And then hasteka tindos fahang emihun confirm kore adi en hulumari diyakam wes adi abduct kore kamawas. So this is Devehe Rajaga folohunge record compared to Rabare's murder investigation. So yeah, I just thought it would be good to contrast what a real police force does and what Devehe Rajaga me folohung masake kuragota.
Best police force in the region should add best police force in the region plus at the end, just to make it level up. Just better.
I use the best police force in the region trademark because this is something I think Hussein Wahid once said. Police service force just so as backwards, but yeah. So I can use that to contrast them against actual police forces in the country, in the countries in the region. Mihon na milibe mo sa area sa apartments ta kandu dinas mihon kuranje he masake nga ba kore ka nga ba iketa. And in fact, most of the police people I've seen in India and Sri Lanka, they are severely underpaid. they have a basic wage ulani, and yet they can get shit done. This is an example of that. And that's why we haven't had any updates on the case either. Me, Devarajaga court of Mihinga Masalega.
Me I think me kuliya kangir program ni kanne in case no ni ke I think koriya.
Then Tiriga, I have actually added a picture I found a couple of years ago. So there was the Star Force guy with his riot gear and his baton sticking out of the side, and he's got glasses and he's got his thing on his head. And mina ge photo selfie nagahamila ni Facebook. Laugh Miliani, you mess with us, we will make you regret. It was Fadakalia for me, Willis VL, and I don't know. But this is our police. This picture to me tells everything you need to know about Maldivian police. Selfie naga, and then you threaten, whoever is reading it was like, you mess with us, we will make you regret or something like that.
It's like Hamasida gang though.
This is exactly what a gang member would say. Like if you look through the profile pictures of some gang members, this is pretty much the same thing.
He's got that black hood and a skull like it's all very thuggish.
So this is what they're good at though, like take pretty pictures of yourself and pose in your gear that the public has paid for and then threaten the public with it. And they have no sense of irony or service, so gratitude towards the people who are actually paying their salaries. So there's no humility, there is no sense of community, there is none of that. I'm a gang member who's out there trying to intimidate somebody else and thinking that I'm really cool about it. So I like this image so much. I'm very thankful to Edney Cha X him. That's his name.
Yeah, I know.
That's his name on social media. I'm very thankful to Edney Cha X him for this image. I try to use it as much as I can.
Yes, I've seen you use it a few times though.
Yeah.
But me, I'm off topic. Why do you think these people, babylicious on social media? What is that phenomenon?
I used to have a very dim view of these people. Why can't you just use your name? Now that I think about it, I feel that they're ahead of the curve. They are completely untraceable on social media. If you try to search for twin sex butterfly, you can't find this person. It's not possible to track this. It's not possible to stalk this person unless I'm sure this Edney chart X him isn't called that in real life.
No, it's not.
Ahmad Ali social media Twitter so it's like real life encryption layer unreadable. So I feel that this is actually quite brilliant in hindsight, and now if I could go back and do it, I probably would have had some weird name myself.
What would be your weird name?
I have no idea. I'll just smash my keyboard and that's my name. No, but I have. And then grammatically was the misal we will VL. I mean, this is NASA dragnet was catch no the keywords in search Korea. Like this is like your name is encrypted, your messages are encrypted. And you're like completely off the grid on Facebook, and that is a huge achievement. I actually admire these people now. I'm not even kidding. This is how I would have done it in hindsight though. This is a late realization that dawned on me.
Even though Facebook and all this, Facebook and Google, though they want you to have real profiles and they shut down your profiles. So,
they're making money of selling your data, and these people are not giving their data, and I feel that's actually quite brilliant of them. They might not realize it, but this is the consequences. They're actually ahead of the curve.
I'm sure they don't do it. The person who's called babylicious wouldn't do it just because, identity protect Braje.
On that note, I think Space Pirate has a
I
really
was
fun
just thinking
video
that.
about
Yes, I was just
that.
thinking
You should
that.
watch it if you haven't.
I
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
watch that. I was
So
thinking that.
it
It's
was
good though.
hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Right.
let's. This is something. Next headline is something I actually added disclaimer to the last time.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the government will not tax solar panels
Mm-hmm.
after all, and there was a huge what do you say, social media backlash against it. And I did say the last time that I heard through a friend that his friend in the energy authority said this is not true. But at that time, the government hadn't issued a public refutation of this. Then this week, the energy authority senior official meet and the story that carried it made it sound like this was an official government stance that they're not doing it. So yeah, so that's good.
But people should be vigilant. I mean, we should keep looking and see if government will stick with it, because at the end of the day, we can't have solar attacks put up, tax the sun
But
system.
then I saw a separate headline that hasn't been refuted here, which is that the permits would be curbed. Wakiwaraka mihunna misa udda millipini mikampura. That is
30%
in
at purchase, no?
yeah. So I haven't seen a refutation of that, but tax nagawa fee nagawa haga dogo kufeda mihara. So I'm relieved. Yeah.
Me grid requirement ki X amount grid beno money ka wanya 30% hame ekanido generate kureve ne bunani.
No, that is for Sarukarum purchase kuranya. But if an individual wants to use solar to power his own house, then he's not connected to this grid. But if he has leftover power, then he could sell it back, plug it back into the grid. Maybe I haven't read the details of what you're mentioning, but
people can't. First come first serve solar quota.
okay, I haven't seen that.
Grid ke 30% because grid redundant work. We are grid protect because
Then-
government's milking money through the grid. Yeah. So
Then I made a joke about. I mean, I'm saying it's a joke, but it could entirely be that the government is under the influence of Beruge powers who are trying to appease the sun worshippers.
Siru sun worshippers.
I think about it like we have a problem with textbooks and crosses and Christians, but there are people in the world who worship, nature and the sun and the wind and tribals and animists. Hagikatuga mihon ves mige ulefarnada dive rajyag Islam din fohela misalaka. No, me. What if they were the ones who convinced the government to stop the tax?
They're every sun god worship kurami
Asle mihon gawa karno dakka tives masha warab boda. Ebo connect korave mihon ane Illuminati avesta. Ele evore vesekada low level operate koraba eko vedadete. Triangle and the sun and the rays coming out. It all makes sense. Confirmed. But every week when I read the news, I come across something like this, and it's funny to me. But the fact that there are people who actually believe this shit is sad. But yeah, so now my new theory is Sarkaram me iruge. What do you call this? Sunlight attacks koro. Manakure just because the sun worshippers had a problem with it. Constant vigilance.
I love that. Works very well
That's
with
what
the
we've
joke.
been trained to do, it's like never relax for a moment. The Abadus commis me and they ask me to take away your Agida, and um, so you can't ever relax and have a nice day, because the moment you do that, some Jew or somebody is going to take away your religion, and I find that a very sad way to live, that
It's
you
very
never.
annoying, and I mean, those Jews zipping by, just grabbing your Agida and just going.
It's sort of like carrying a lot of money in a public place. The hama
Mm.
eleven kada me jehene again protect for him, because anybody passing by can snatch it away from you. uh,
Controlla Agida Gengusan.
but that's how people think of it, and I don't know how these people think of it, but they do feel their agida is such an easily snatchable away thing, though. But I wonder if they also associate that with other things, though. It's like, what about something like your love for your child or your wife, though? Henda mihako, bonachakong,
Piljeka.
you might actually stop,
Being
you know
related.
being related, or feeling this instinctual love or something. And if you can't stop your loving your son because some Jew told you to, showed an image on TV, then probably your Akita is also fine, because those are also things you believe, like on a very instinctive, intuitive level. But people need to feel this insecurity. The insecurity is proportional to how much you believe. I don't think that's true, because that's the next headline we have.
Mm-hmm.
Media haftaga home minister sanaka bonafe. Okay. Foreigners are trying to introduce other religions in the Maldives.
Yeah, repeated enough, Kuri Haftaga, Yamin,
Yeah,
yeah, so just keep repeating it enough, and then this boogeyman will be real.
then maybe there are people who are trying to spread other religions. So what? Don't believe in other religions, and then they have failed. The home minister or Birodakka, like
They've got the evidence, though, they make the internet atheist. Miharu, it's hit a point where you can no longer deny non-religious people exist. Internet, they must be paid by foreigners trying to introduce other religions,
no,
because
my
people don't have their own mind and capacity to choose to leave religion. They are always paid by Zionist or non-communist. Mahama paycheck tar naganaga. I mean, Zionist.
क्या हो रहा है
Ane ma bayawaran no digazo me.
Ma vez milia come posta kalli beda ka fassate ka wala kappa.
Menes kolle dode.
Menes kolle beda ka. Ka we pa jehe kadde kodaka increase koranda me. Yahudi ngata konna lari. That's Jew gold, what do you call this? එහා වර බාහිරද මම ජෙහෙඩත යාමෙන් බුනේ හනු ජෙහෙද හලාලත හරහමත බලක්
Abi miha vesna ne dor.
අපි කැලි බඩ ඉලුමිනාටි ಇಂತ ಇಸ್ರೇಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಂತನಕ
No, I'm a Sida Zionist man. Is that Israel larite, Illuminati larite, Zionist money.
ಚೆಕುಲಿ ಬೇರೊಂದು ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಕಾಪಿ ನಡಿ ಇಲುಮಿನಾಟಿ
It's too much. I got tears.
Secret Zionist Bank of Illuminati.
Highest denomination of Kennedy was zillion. Just to get the Z sound there.
We laugh, but there are people who think this is how it operates. There are people. Just the other day, a friend of mine was telling me that this common friend of not a common friend, like this person's friend was telling her about me. Don't you know that he is basically, normally it comes as he's either gay or he's funded by Bengham style Zionist. Somebody. But no, honestly, like anybody listening, I actually work for a living, believe it or not. I get a salary, I work hard, and I make money through hard work. And this is something I spend money on. My web hosting fee is something I pay from the money I make through other sources. And nobody's paying me to write or to destroy somebody's agenda, which is a strange thing
Full
to
disclaimer.
me, but yeah.
No agenda destroying you.
Yeah, so still the mental image of a check is hilarious.
මේ වගන් නෙගේ කාලා ගීතායගේ මශ ආස්තුක ඒගේ වගන් නෙගේ කාලා ගීතා පැනේ අරගෙන වැටුණස් බණ්ඩේගේ
Coach කනලයන්ට ගෙන්දානේ මෙන් කගීද.
Is it a solid or a liquid?
But again, like we joke, but this is a serious matter that people shouldn't be this insecure about. The internet. Biro mulanya gotiki, you're not empowered to question, challenge your authorities because they have this sword hanging over you. But if you don't do this, Islam did some comments.
I can't. Composure eligible in the
Okay, so
serious.
Yes. But no, seriously, this is something I have been writing about for years. That stop being scared of things that won't affect your life in any way. Even if there are other religions in the Maldives, you are fine. Nobody's going to come and inject Islam into you. This is not how anything works. And so,
Injecting a
oh, hendo me tibi picture bi kuradi me nida for vas have cylinder konja
Kunje kendane yaar deen badal
එහෙන බදල්වා චන්නම් සනගත් මේ දීනකේ ද ගබල් කුරාන regardless of I'm a divehenda me jegan lanka santana me dane but so later you'll see temples and churches and everything, and you still come back as a Muslim because you're a Muslim, and that's not going to change. And don't believe people who thinks that this is going to destroy your life. It is not. You're fine. Have that sort of confidence in yourself and don't be scared all the time. Being scared all the time is not a good way to live. And yeah, so so First Lady has launched Yameen Rasheed re-election campaign, which is very strange because I thought it started last year.
Mihara launch kori kanne. The title on the news said this year's activity has been launched. I thought
this PPM launch kora channone me First Lady ge amilla initiative gotadda. So the PPM hasn't officially launched re-election campaign.
They might as well just say though there's another party within the party.
Mihame Burani Anakako Rice spokesperson TV Mo, I think. I am not entirely sure, but I'm 90% sure it was him. and he was stressing on the fact that it wasn't the official PPM campaign. This is just the first lady doing her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk around Male, now you have multiple billboards. The other night I went to Thum restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I mentioned this before.
Yes,
like
you
right
did.
outside, there was one billboard, and then there was this one large display. Mihare Banjek Anekka billboard. So there are 3 Yamin pictures you have to look at when you're eating food. It's just gets worse. So now that this campaign has begun, I'm assuming it will actually increase going forward.
So there's going to be a lot of campaign material and stuff. But I mean, look at it this way. Strategically speaking, Yamin's ahead of the curve from everybody else.
He also has the resources to be ahead of the curve.
Of course, but
The billboard Jahai can't really say anything about it.
But MDP has access to resources, which they have demonstrated over the years that they do.
Mihaftaga Gaiyum was trying to organize something. They shut him down before he even could start. I think he was going to have a discussion or something with anybody who would turn up. Was shut down before he could start. There have been flags of MDP taken down from buildings and posters taken off the walls, and a level of intimidation that operate koran hamayam
My colleague a mental image and I got you feel I the kotriye the Facebook live ko aur ya pe na ni vecha yaar wali bunker amade.
No, it's so ungayyum like the brain as if he did it. I have no other option. The Facebook Live would know.
Bunk करोगे देखे.
Okay, so Gayyum, actually, I actually feel bad for the guy though. This is not how he probably pictured his retirement years. And he probably never saw this coming.
But then as they say, as the saying goes, karma is a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, he built the system, so somebody else is just using it against him. Tough luck. Okay, so then Hamaneka is first lady Gawahake. ACC has dismissed multiple corruption allegations against the first lady.
I saw the funniest meme about this today. Mandi caption ginani when me first lady picture mandi ginna kaduru wala ja.
So
kaduru wala.
So she's been called multiple things. So what has happened is the Saudi king sent his annual donation of kaduru, and this one decided, okay, I'm going to distribute this, and I'm in the branding sticker so that you don't know who actually gave it, and then use it. I think Sadagat Foundation, something like that. Make it sound like it's coming from the first lady. And ACC के argument की है मैं हंता होगे करने में बनाने me first lady and every fire that कोरी काम के मैं हन्ना ताहोगे करना फैने, and this was only done to make it more efficient. The distribution avaha me distribute koram again कोरी काम के.
So what they're saying is that there was no monetary faida, but political capital
which is also faida. At the end of the day, me first lady as a kaduru packet or whatever. I don't even know how this works. I have never received this in my life, but I'm assuming commis me ko asibi dedi ada kaduru cha ekawati ka first lady gefaratun libong cha ko tenga hisab that is buying influence. It's like somebody who believes in getting kaduru and gets it from this person.
Clearly, I mean, there's a fair thing about that, though.
it's can't be more blatant than that. The
But
we
obviously they're putting a monetary value at Jiballam vegan lari negi nunaga and they've defined fada negum which
misalaka intihabu terega మీ candidate nga mi deni nenge kaduro packet kanekka or I don't know AC enno ata ehen etche laptop would that be corruption because areas ene kannuli by the monetary fayda he's buying influence by giving somebody else something that they desire ege hama equivalent atta whether it is kaduro
yeah,
whether it's an
definitely,
AC whether it is what you're sort of making this person feel obliged to do something for you. That could be a vote, that could be whatever else. And this is the problem I have with me hospital gosves bade mi honna city ora ka fasate karu fiala mi deni heyodo aya ko whatever, and that is corruption. That is buying influence.
People actually do that. Like regular everyday people who wants to go see a doctor is putting $500 in rupiah in an envelope. This is happening.
No, it's not the people. It's the first lady herself was going to the hospital, meeting these people and giving them an envelope of
right. Okay. I thought there was a corruption being forced to any doctor that comes.
So I mean, charity is different from this. This is corruption. If you wanted to do charity, you would donate to a charitable organization that feeds people or clothes people or gives medicines or distributes something. You don't go to individuals and shake their hands and give them money in an envelope and say this is not corruption. Rise ke come to introduce or to find funds and make sure systems like Asanda and things work. That would be more beneficial than this 500 rupiah in a city. A city ore ka fasate karu shala di fadengos me kora kama ke Asanda nganekka vis kandala nida hori hacha. So the public is being cheated out of things, and specific individuals so go similarim bahane and that is also buying influence. Kadaro dina sama, that is influence. You don't have to make money to for it to be considered corruption. So this influence ki corruption, but the ACC found it otherwise, so she's off the hook for that one.
Good for the ACC. Well, good for her.
Good for her, good for the ACC. Fuck you, Rayatanda. And then the ACC person also said one more thing. She said, they said on her covering the label with her own label is not, it's okay basically because Huriha menna singe Saudi Arabia and the Bongachakanda. And I'm not sure what to say to that because.
So if I took a label and a branded product on label but I can just sell it as my own also though. That's okay.
Coca-Cola company ne cola hadaneda maadi mage photo jaha.
Yeah, like Yameen Cola or Muju Cola. Yeah, but then this is the skewed logic of Modi's
ACC, and this is the problem I have with this again is the same problem I had with the police, because ACC ki some ganun asasige dashon ufedifanna me independent institution and democracy horiha kiyane bharata wakiya fonneru rayatunge difauga tibenje hebay me ACC JSC elections commission HRCM amihus
FM
වරුගේ එක්කමක් මේ රායතුන්ගේ මේ constitutional rights the guarantee කරම් තිබේ බයද independently.
Yeah, all of them.
These are not people beholden to the state or the president or the first lady. Nujehe mihong hinga majassakin kantetta koraka. But this seems to be how it's happening.
Belazini has raised this one very well in her conversations that rice ke member AQ and rice ayyan ko honda member AQ. The trick is in the language where the people assume, independent commission, yes, but rice ayyan ko honda member rice job tari wajhe and rice hidmat koranje and rice punagot chekak koranje because egotoddo mit frame korani.
Yeah, and a properly functioning independent institution can make a huge difference in a country's democracy. Public confidence in institutions in the process is ensured by Mibuna independent institutions. And this has often happened in a single term of an independent institution. One of my favorite examples is India Elections Commission. In the 70s and 80s, India's democracy was sort of really, really wavering. It was super corrupt. It remains corrupt as a country, but the elections process itself was severely undermined by Indira Gandhi and Kahala. So they were rigging elections and everybody knew it, and there was very little the public could do because the Elections Commission itself was sort of compromised. And then there comes this one dude called T.N. Session, and he basically reforms the whole process. And he introduced voter ID cards, and I don't know, he introduced a whole bunch of reforms. And today, India elections process, people have confidence in it, and they even have this amilliam of implement Kora rules where nobody in India has to travel more than, I think, 2 kilometers or something like that to cast their vote. So you could be like in the middle of a jungle somewhere, and there will be an election booth right in a place accessible to you. So he restored people's. That's excellent because nobody disputes election results in India, and that whole process has the people's confidence. And for a country like India with 1 billion and something people, for people to trust the process of the counting and everything, that is huge.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
So that reassures people that yes, somebody, we trust the Elections Commission has said this, so it must be true. That is the sort of institutions we want, not somebody who, falls at the president or the first lady's feet and no, that's not corruption. This is not corruption. No, you can do. Everyone knows this is Saudi Arabian dates. You don't have to apologize for, speaking the truth. And yeah, so this is just another in a series of Maldivian democracy.
By far, tara de michila dakka. Harmene ka studio ke.
Ate miwahaka dakka miha dabades gos wani hama miha tibana ka hire ko gengos fabona fane me. Burabe huni da something equivalent.
Let's move. Gayum response meme photo. This is perfect response meme on pretty much anything that's happening.
Yeah. So well, he didn't post this picture, but I felt he should have in response to this. Follow me the Nimamon Gea of me PPM party of Waganegi or Geldono or Vita Nenge hard disk ka behego to swal koro. The me hard disk me himene ne ane party ka membership registry basically. Which I found funny because Mauna PPM guys and party of a Bayako at the Gandiam and a Kauswa Korani Mauna Kobahemi a hard disk. Mamun and then I thought, I'm pretty sure he has it somewhere, but I think he should have followed up with this picture of him in the party office. guy who wrote that on the wall would never have pictured in 1,000 years that
use case
would, like, this is like a classic judo move, though. You throw it back at the person.
Maybe photo man. I had that encrypted messaging app and Telegram installed, and people are developing stickers and everything into the market. Though, me photo response job I remember that. It was so good.
Yeah. But this is brilliant. This is why I still think Mamun was the last really smart person in PPM. And I think Faris advises him on social media, because Faris is also very good on social media. He knows what to say, how to say, and when to say it. So this picture was just him taking back control at a moment when he was otherwise very, very vulnerable. He's smiling, he's standing in front of this thing, and he's giving a message. And this is Mamun saying this, and then there's no coming back from this. Like this is like very devastating to whoever wrote that on the wall. And this is very clear who the message is intended for. I really like this move.
It's one of my favorite images to come out of the way politics in the last few years.
Because it's Mamun, because he's otherwise flowery, and then he comes up and says Corona. He didn't say it, he's technically just posing in front of something that says it.
If the way corrupt politics had a profile picture, this would be it.
This is
It's true. It's true. The way politics is bad, too sad again. We've been reduced to just making jokes about it now. It's pretty sad, dude.
I know.
आज लुटी है सभी देर में गिरे सुनो रहे calm yourself, control yourself.
Okay.
one hour 42 minutes to switch.
So Malé City Councillor has been arrested on charges of bribery. And then it also turns out that this councillor is from PPM. And this was very surprising to me. Like, ekkada. Which just never happens in the Maldives. I just was surprised this was the case. And then I read the story, and yeah, he's supporting the wrong PPM. I didn't need to read the rest of the story, so I just...
Yeah, you got the TLDR version of it right there.
I supported the incorrect PPM. So it's like this one glimmer of like, maybe our system sometimes... No, it doesn't work. It just...
No, it would just be wishful thinking.
Yeah. Then concluding it is Muizzo Anekaris. So I actually started by saying it's almost like he wants to be featured in the Daily Panic. This week I will mess up the payments. So we got the key. I saw a Facebook post and this went viral. Somebody noticed that Majid Magaliete Honkorneg alum hadairo payment mi badal korane koring mi disable mi hunna eregotam ta mi no hen no agatadda. So now they removed all the disabled access and all the disabled accesses are now being raised and changed to the way it was before the redevelopment. So which was a very fair accusation, because I think we also discussed in a previous episode about how disabled people are already finding it difficult to do regular day-to-day things, and by changing the pavements you're making them unable to even go outside. So what does Moise do? He once again
I'm so triggered with you.
He just denies all the allegations. That me initially me tuhamat kuri mi ha photo wa ekkaddo laugh ebone kuri ngori mi henne mihar miri mi henne.
Moise jail photo evidence now.
Moise just denies all the allegations. He said no, the payments are fine. The other payments.
He got pictures of guys fixing it back into.
And then me have bone for me we tweet kura photo ka me dakkani ekkada kore ka de tarara padu rangalu kuratan.
I think this is completely lost on him when he does this.
This is his actual text. I'm not like changing what he said. Majidi magu payment ke disabled access ta nagamanda wahake ke muling hagiga ta hila wahake and diri ka me dakkani ekkale ala kore payment ta rangalu kuratan. It's like, yeah, you just disproved your own thing. I know, like, just apologize and say now we are fixing it, or this was a temporary thing, we are now changing it. No,
own up
he could just say, then Bunavidanata, thank you for the, I think community engagement or Mohimavana Mikhail Kantata Halukurang, which was an oversight, this won't happen again. There are like 100 ways you could have gotten out of it looking good. No, but you have to choose the one thing like to be an asshole and say, oh,
it's all there, and could like a cartoon character and he's like making it.
This is the like, no, but this I'm glad that they're like fixing the payments again, but this does come to show how our politicians think about taking responsibility. Though, I always have this complaint about authority figures in the Maldives who they are in positions of responsibility. The zimmadar magamed geda me. Neka webis kama ka zimma nagakan jehe. Ehemvema. Misal ka IGMH kawas somebody got HIV infected, hospital and blood transfusion or something happened, and laboratory technician instead of somebody who is in charge of ensuring that the process works. So no, and they actually refuse to take any responsibility for it. But individual follow than the entire institution that is supposed to prevent this from happening. Me dunia gehentanta ebahore like what seemingly kudi kantata misala ka company credit card ehenech gam fanuata any sort of conflict of interest ebahore the US congressman, I think, who texted a picture of his genitals to somebody. He was basically cheating on his wife, and this has nothing to do with his public office. If he's lying to his wife, could he also lie to the public? That thing exists in their cultures, and he has to take moral responsibility and step back or resign or take responsibility for doing this. So I feel in a functioning democracy you really need that sort of responsible people in those positions. Then you have to be super careful of not saying the wrong thing, not doing the wrong thing, and not appearing, incorrect in public forums. But Rajshekar, it doesn't matter. You could just you can, just survive. And at that point, there is no accountability from you, even though you're the one taking big money and the guy in the lab or the guy and the corporal in the police. So that person is ultimately bearing the brunt of your mistakes or something that you have taken charge of. So yeah, I feel this tweet from him saying Nagamanda wahake muling hakikata hila wahake take, that is symptomatic of this larger problem of refusing to be humble and accept mistakes and take responsibility. Miti hafta ama mihendavan ane takosena Nasheed boladda na kandale, even though he's been minister for 5 years.
The way culture must have the hard notice kura that the way kankam goes ko veva asu responsibility naga by nature on the good leg. So it may not just be a muizu masala, but
like accepted a mistake, I'm like lesser now or weaker.
Derawan and Balivi.
But I personally don't see it that way. I think it takes a lot of courage, strength, or morality, or I don't know what you call it. It's a positive thing to admit your own failings or seek to improve something than just, oh no, I am perfect and everything I do is perfect and you're wrong, fuck you. That's not how democratic leaders should work. I'm not saying Moise is a democratic leader. He's not elected for anything, but and he's not democratic either. But yeah.
But he's claiming to be, operating under the facade of a democracy.
In a country that claims to be a democracy, he needs to be a role model or some such.
But he's not. He's going to continue making good comedy jokes for you, so you can keep writing about it.
Yeah, and just last week I had said that I hope he doesn't make this a thing. Like I don't want to write about the destruction of Male as a comedy series, but he seems intent on doing this, so I'm just covering the headlines. I had to include it.
They call it Jon Stewart. Obama. Excuse me. Jon Stewart Obama. And he had that thing though. He had his heyday during W. Bush.
Yes.
And then he got so much material out of W. Bush doing all the crazy stuff that he did.
Yeah, those were golden years for comedians.
And then he was like, okay, the materials just died now. Obama is not decent.
But then this thing shifted from Bush to the Republican Party. Did you notice that? Like sometimes when I am as a writer, I'm perfectly happy to ridicule anybody, but Moise is sort of hogging up that space that this is like focus on me though. Yeah, so that's it. And then there is one last update from the previous textbook controversy from Holomale. The school has recalled all the textbooks because it contains information about other religions in the world, which I think students should know because there is no other way for them to know. So in a formal education system, especially the social studies class, you need to know what societies are formed of, and they are formed of people with differing beliefs and belief systems.
Definitely.
And there are other people you'll find across the world. Some of them are Protestant, some of them are Catholic, some of them are atheists, some of them are Buddhists. This is what Buddhists believe, this is what Protestants believe, this is what Catholics believe. And just knowing that does not make you not a Muslim. And this comes back to what we were saying earlier, where you have to be afraid of knowledge. I went to a Catholic school. I'm not saying I turned out fine, but uh, but I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Catholic. I just happen to know a lot about Catholicism. And we were never forced into Catholic classes. Catholic students are Catholic class. They would be taught Bible studies while we were kept in a separate class. We had a basically free hour every week, and it was a good school. And all the Hindus and all the Muslims and Christians are a very small minority in India, but almost all the good schools are run by Christians, missionary schools. So the English medium private schools are all run by missionaries throughout India. And we might go not about a waiting list of us. When you get a kid, you immediately like book the place for 2.5 years from now. And everybody there turns out fine. They still remain in their own religions and their own cultures while going to a Catholic school. And this isn't even anything remotely approaching that. We had a chapel in our school, we had a church, we had a cemetery, we had all of these things in this.
You
It's
had
a
a
whole
cemetery?
Huh?
You had a cemetery?
Yeah, no, this my school was on this outskirts of the town. It was a very popular, it's a Prangola school. It's like one of the top two, and they had a whole hill compound thing. They had multiple colleges, multiple schools, cemetery,
I'm going to
church,
resist the urge to make a joke here.
and this is why what ruined me. No, but what I'm saying is, well, I can't be the only one though, but there are like thousands of others who went to the same school and they just turned out fine. The Muslims remained Muslims, the Hindus remained Hindus, and the Christians were just Christians as ever. So it's okay to be exposed to other, so you can sort of contrast them against, what other people believe, what your people believe. You can find a lot of common ground with it once you are familiar with why these people believe what they believe. Okay, so
common ground hodam benu bami hakan.
yeah, so if you're trying to constantly divide yourself and say all of them are your enemies, they're trying to destroy your religion and whatever, then of course you're not going to be their enemy. But there are so much more. Miadi dekolabes and US West, there are people who want to keep the Muslims out. I think Trump himself has said something about making a registry of Muslims and so on. These are all very horrifying things to say, because most people in the American heartland have probably never met a Muslim. They don't know what Islam is. So emihon nagos Islam din kiyada emiham kiyada ne emihon asemi udane mi miskitangalagang they want to steal your children and your
maslahat
Did you
taka
please?
no, maslahat taka I'm not going to comment on this one. You frozen. Hello? I can't hear you.
Yeah, so then maybe got the key connection. I'm a drop fee. And the far we have drop Wi-Fi. I think we are back online. Hopefully we can conclude the thing. So I think the last thing I was saying was that it is okay to find knowledge about other religions and to find common ground, because that's what at the end allows you to live in peace with other people. And I was saying that in the US West, there are people who are portraying Islam as this evil cult that is trying to take away your religion and your faith and the American way of life. But it doesn't have to be that way. So there are... Go on.
Right. I feel free to say what you think needs to be said. I don't subscribe to that view completely. I don't think in some of that stuff is unjustified and no karne. When someone says, look, I'm afraid of Islam by kankang hunnagoto, I think it's clearly justified. Kuruanung ayakya ane hadith quote of ISIS feshigengo emme ikan kurani. It's undeniable. So when Americans
What is undeniable is that yes, there are definitely people who get their hateful views from religion. But that is not specific to Islam in general. It is perhaps more frequently found in Islam today because of various. But this was also true of Misalaka. There are Buddhist fanatics now emerging in South and Southeast Asia. There were Christian fanatics who are also the Catholics and Protestants have been fighting in Europe. But the Christian societies have also evolved beyond their, what they were 100 or 200 years ago. And now they are living in a mostly secular society. But at the same time, Misaka, US is not a very secular society. They are a very conservative Christian society. And there are people there whose views are not based on facts. They are based on highly narrow worldview that is preached to them by their pastors or by their TV personalities. And the idea of keeping a Muslim registry is so horrifying to me because it is such a blight on the human rights aspect of it. It is as bad to me as keeping a register of Jews or a registry of Japanese or anything else that have happened in the past which has led to bad consequences.
I support the idea of creating a registry.
No, I know you don't, but I'm just saying that a generalization can actually be unjustified by a wide margin. So yes, there are aspects about Islam that is being preached even here in the Maldives that hangurama gawa hake terendam hori ha justify me kurani. But that is not Islam. Here Sharia bunayra bunana komismiha go bobori kuranno ata akkandang. But there are other aspects of Sharia as well. I mean, if you were to sort of step back and say, okay, maybe you don't agree with it, but there are this is a huge family of things which yes also include certain things. But if you're going to just focus on this one thing and then reduce Islam itself to that thing, and then you say all Muslims subscribe to this view that I have gotten, and all Muslims are secretly trying to behead you or kill themselves or go to jihad. I don't think that's fair. What I think is most people, regardless of whether they're Christians or Muslims, they just want to live. They just want to go see their kids go to school, get a job, find a wife, or do whatever that normal people do. That is what I don't think anybody lives. Not anybody. I don't think the general society lives on this edge where somebody is, your enemy and your. Yeah,
there's so many things inconsistent with this thing. Again, there's two things here. There's Muslims, which is people. This is not religion, deen, and no Muslims. So when someone attacks Muslim people, that is wrong. But ideologies are not above criticism. So when an ideology like Islam has things in its doctrine that is against fundamental human rights values that we hold dear today, I think we should be able to talk about it and say, look, this is not consistent with our...
I don't disagree with it, though, but the thing is, I know you're not religious, though I know you have your criticisms about, aspects of Islam. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but what I'm saying is to have a more academic understanding of it, that, okay, these are the 20 things on the table. I have a problem with 1 and 2, but this is also a part of this whole set. And for the way I think about Islam is it's got a 1400 years of culture associated with it, and that culture is different in the Maldives than it was in parts of India, is different from Indonesia. So everywhere this thing has gone, it has blended into the local existing culture. And I don't think anybody is in the position to say, yeah, but what you were practicing is not true Islam, or what they were practicing is not true
That is
Islam.
fine. That is fine.
But that is the sort of ideology that is being preached, Mihar Rajek, that okay, we need to abandon all 1400 years of understanding that we have, or the culture we have developed, and go back to literally reading a book and following it as a literal, commands. And that is also the argument I have seen many anti-theists make, that like in black and white you can't. But no, that is not how it necessarily is. Maybe that's what the text says, but the understanding of the text has been understood separately, differently in different cultures at different times.
If
Hmm.
something, if the text was misunderstood and people were misconstruing what it's
No,
really
no, no, no.
trying to
I'm not
say,
saying
which
it was
yeah,
misunderstood. I'm saying it is differently understood by different cultures at different times throughout the world.
what so
No,
obviously it has
that's reality.
multiple
That is,
interpretations, different
yes,
understandings and all of that. So
yes.
obviously the source material isn't consistent to have a singular meaning where people
Not,
wouldn't.
not. Like, this is something that I have very major disagreements with people on. So once you once you make this assertion that this document that we have, or this, it is not a legal document. It is not written in legal language. It is not meant to be unambiguous, perhaps. It just is in the form of spoken poetry. That is the original thing. It was written down on leaves later. But if you think about poetry, just poetry, not necessarily this, it is understood by different people to be different things. It's meant to generate different emotions in different people. And I don't see a problem in that. What I have a problem is in people who read in a poetry like they would read a telephone book, right? Like this is how it is, like completely devoid of any injection. I mean, when you read something, you're always injecting your personality or your views into it, and you're interpreting it with a certain worldview that you have. And that is true of all written text. When I write my blog, I might have written it with a certain intention. And when people share the Daily Panic articles, I often read the comments that they leave, and then different people find different parts of it, resonating with them. Some people might find this funny, some people might find that disturbing, some people might completely hate me for writing this part of it. That doesn't mean they're not reading the same text. It just means it resonates with them on different levels, and I'm fine with that. That is how things work. For me, this is about a religion that has been around 1400 years. It has been practiced in the Maldives for quite a long time. It has been there is Sufism, there is music, there is mysticism, there is the dervishes, there is architecture, art, culture, Mihuriha, this richness, the poetry that has gone, that has emanated from it, that has evolved from it, that is also as valid and as real as anything that anybody says. And that is also Islam, because it doesn't have to be what was in this book in black and white. It is how it was practiced, it was how it was interpreted, it was what it has created in terms of culture and empires and history. And you cannot strip away all of it and then reduce Islam or Muslims down to this one thing.
See,
Even Christianity
but
isn't a Bible.
you're talking as if Muslims and Islam is the one and same thing,
No, no, no.
interchangeable, but it's not. See,
That's what I'm actually saying.
the Muslim man or the Muslim woman or the Muslim person, is most likely to be a decent human being.
No,
Problem
okay.
is that there's an
Let me
extreme
just clarify this one thing.
segment of people, yeah.
There are also Muslims who are like completely appalling people, and there are Muslims who are good people, right? That we both agree on that. So there's a huge diversity among Muslims, and most of them undoubtedly are normal people, regular people who have regular concerns in their lives. They're not plotting to, blow themselves up or whatever. They're just regular average people. Let's put that aside. Coming to Islam, Islam is an ideology, like you said, or a religion, but that is
All
also
religion
not
is
one
ideology.
thing. Yeah. It is an ideology, but it is not one thing. It is something that you're also injecting some of you into. So when you were to say like,
Right,
okay,
but
this is Islam and this is one thing and this cannot change
but
ever,
if you talk,
that is not true.
see, this is you being a liberal reinterpreting what Islam is. You know, so
No, I'm not.
I'm just going
I'm
to.
making the assertion that you are free to interpret Islam the way you want, and it is an ideology that stands. And then you could say, okay, yeah, I agree with, say, the Wahhabis or the Salafists, and they are the most Puritan version of Islam, which because it comes straight from the text, it is undeniable, irrefutable. Yeah, maybe that is
See,
the case.
see,
Maybe it is the literal word of God.
I'm going to have to agree to
Hmm.
disagree with you on this one
Hmm.
because you, my understanding of Islam is that you can't reinterpret it because, and I
Yeah,
don't,
that's your understanding, and you're welcome to that understanding, but you cannot
mind you,
deny that other people have a different thing.
I am
Yeah.
I'm going to explain why my understanding of
Okay.
that everything exists. Why I don't remember the exact. I quote ko for number puna kang ekam amasi guruwa aba puna do khandelige mi furi hamagem wa guruwa ne mi Allah ke passport mi ek
Mm,
itur uni ek badal de
mm,
pegem nuan. So there is
mm.
no jag itur ka reinterpret kuraka. What it is what it is.
I'm not saying it is reinterpreted. I'm saying it is interpreted, right? When it says "me te badal koraka jagannate," like that is fine, but coaching te badal koraka dakkani, like again, when you read it, you're not. This is not something that was interpreted in a certain way then and now. Horiha, like okay, all the liberals have come and said no, now it is this way. No, it is an organic thing that has over the years meant different things to different people. That doesn't mean the text has changed. The text hasn't changed. What how it applies to society has changed. Um, and how it would have worked in the prophet's times is different from how it would have worked 100 years later, different from another 100 years later. It was different in India than it was in Malaysia, than it was in Maldives. That is okay with me. That is how things
Mind
are
you,
interpreted.
this
It is
is
not that the Maldivians have completely misunderstood Islam. I was actually supposed to have done this, instead I was just doing this. But I don't think that is that. I think that's a very harsh way of judging something.
well. I don't know. See, the thing is, me as to go. This call has gone
Okay,
on a
okay,
past
okay.
2 hours. If we go too
Right.
deeper into it, mami armita karamful dem angelle gan kuliwe switch. My muni kaampeshi.
Okay, yeah.
So let's not go
Hey,
into it. I am going to go agree to disagree on a few things on this last topic. So yeah, let's for the
let's end
you're
this
right,
quickly. Yeah.
definitely.
All right. It
Okay.
was a very long and
Yeah, it was a good call.
sometimes laugh chat.
But we
Yeah.
had definitely had fun
Yeah.
moments. So,
All right.
all right,
So yeah, let's end this.
all right, bye.
Bye bye.